Resident Evil 7 Biohazard is a first-person survival horror game developed and published by Capcom for PC, Xbox One, and PlayStation 4, with the PlayStation 4 version having both support for the PlayStation 4 Pro and the PlayStation VR. In Resident Evil 7, you play as Ethan Winters, who heads out to the Baker family mansion in Dulvey, Louisiana, in search of his missing wife. When he arrives at the mansion, it's dilapidated and seems abandoned. But all is not as it seems, as both the Baker family and Ethan's wife Mia are living in the mansion, but they're infected and seemingly driven insane by a new bioweapon virus. As Ethan, you must find a way to escape the Baker's mansion with your wife in tow as the Baker family tries to prevent your escape and ultimately kill you. Before we start this review, I'd like to mention that I played through the game fully in PlayStation VR on a PS4 Pro. So the footage you're seeing is captured from the social screen output of the PlayStation VR, which is one eye, de-warped, and cropped, with an output at 720p. So what you see on the screen isn't 100% representative of what it looks like within the headset. With that out of the way, let's get into the review with the good. The first thing you notice about Resident Evil 7 is the camera perspective. This is the first game in the mainline series with a first-person camera. The camera angle doesn't change a ton when it actually comes to the gameplay, but that's what works about it. Resident Evil 7 is a return to form for the series. Gone are the days of boulder punching. With Resident Evil 7, you'll be solving puzzles, managing inventory, and backtracking through a mansion, much like the first 3 games in the series. In conjunction with the new camera angle, this does enough to make the game feel new and fresh, but also familiar. The camera angle isn't the only thing Resident Evil 7 does to change up the original formula, though. The inventory management in this game has a few interesting quirks, specifically the chem fluid item. With the chem fluid, you can combine it with many other items to create entirely new items or more potent versions of previous items. This can create some interesting scenarios. For example, if you have 1 herb for healing, 1 gunpowder for making ammunition, and 1 chem fluid, you can combine the chem fluid with either an herb for health or gunpowder for ammo, making you decide whether you want more ammo or health for whatever situation is ahead of you. The game also takes a tonal shift from recent games in the series. It's incredibly cheesy, but a different kind of cheesy from the latest games in the earlier games. It feels more like an Evil Dead movie than a Resident Evil game. But I'm totally okay with that. I found the story, the tone, and especially the characters incredibly enjoyable. Seriously, Jack Baker better be in Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. As for my experience in VR, it was fantastic. I've never found any Resident Evil game all that scary, and the demo of 7 didn't do much to scare me on its standard 2D display. But in the VR headset, the game delivered some genuine scares. The headset also adds some great functionality. It was really nice when hiding from the Bakers to be able to lean and duck under things and look around corners. The game is around 6 to 7 hours long, and I felt it was a decent length and ends right about when it's starting to outstay its welcome. But I found the game to be very good for multiple playthroughs. After you beat the game the first time, you unlock some extra items and also the Madhouse difficulty, where autosaves are less frequent, and you have a limited number of saves dictated by cassette tapes, much like ink ribbons from the previous games. Madhouse also features harder enemies and less supplies in general. Overall, I found that Madhouse is my preferred difficulty for the game, and I very much recommend you give the game a shot on Madhouse after you beat it. Graphically, the game looked fairly good in VR. As I mentioned previously, I'm playing on the PlayStation 4 Pro, which seems to have some various upgrades over the standard PlayStation 4 version, especially in VR, including higher resolution and draw distances. The game runs at a native 60 frames per second and is reprojected up to 120 frames in the headset, leading to one of the smoothest feeling games I've ever played in PlayStation VR. As for motion sickness, I typically don't get motion sick from VR, but if you do, there are a decent variety of options to help you not get sick. These include being able to walk slowly and have turning be at set angles. The default angle is around 30 degrees. Of course, if you're like me, you can turn these options off if you wish. Now, there was one problem I really had with the graphics, so let's transition into the bad. When entering a new area, the game would often have some really horrendous texture pop-in. I would look at these terribly low-quality textures up close in VR, and it would be a pretty lengthy time before the high-quality asset popped in. I also found that when entering a new area, the resolution would drop a bit for a quick second before going back up to the proper resolution. Now, this wasn't a big deal, considering it was only for a split second, but it was definitely annoying, especially in the headset. As far as gameplay goes, I have two big complaints. The puzzles in this game could have been a bit more creative and brain-teasing. A good amount of the puzzles in Resident Evil 7 are light-based puzzles, where you have an abstract object that you must rotate in front of a light so that the shadow lines up with a painting behind it. Not many of the puzzles in this game actually require thinking or creative solution, which was a bit of a disappointment for me. And I think the biggest problem I had is that during the final act of the game, the pacing takes a sharp nosedive. One section in particular takes away all your items just to give you a machine gun 2 seconds later, where it just becomes a 30-minute mindless corridor shooter. Overall, Resident Evil 7 is a fantastic game. It remembers what made the original games great, yet changes things up enough to feel fresh and exciting and new. As a VR title, it's the best VR game to date, and really excites me for the possibilities of the platform. Resident Evil 7 Biohazard gets a